Hey guys, happy Easter in Sydney, Australia. We're in Sydney today. We are heading into an amazing long weekend, so fingers crossed the weather's going to be nice, certainly here in Sydney and maybe even in Melbourne, I heard.
Yes, yeah, looking forward to it.
So today, this month, we've been talking a lot about emotional intelligence, self-awareness. And one of the things I said to Fee this morning was, how do we, once we start to get better connected in with our emotional intelligence, what do we do with it? We've seen people who go off on courses and they kind of discover the word emotional intelligence and read all the buzzwords and the data and all the stuff that says it's a really good thing to have and use. But I guess there's that whole piece of, what's the right size for using emotional intelligence to make good decisions, to make good actions and those sorts of things. So today we thought we'd talk about that and where we start.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting piece that when we get a new skill, we get exposed to something new, we sometimes tend to want to overdo it or kind of over-apply it. And that's a really normal thing to do. But one of the things we know about emotional intelligence is it's really useful to just slow down a little bit. And so as you become aware and more in touch with the emotions that are going on for yourself, or you recognize them in others, it's about just taking a few seconds and really getting specific. What is it exactly that I'm feeling? If it's frustration, is it an anger type frustration, or is it more of a disappointment, or is it more of a sadness that something didn't happen? And the more specific you can get, or that someone else you're working with can get, the more that clarity helps us go, okay, that's that piece of intel. Therefore, I know what I'm going to do based on understanding what the impact is on me and how I'm feeling.
Yeah, and I guess it's avoiding that desire to want to rush in and fix. I think sometimes, particularly this is true with uncomfortable emotions, we want to kind of rush in and fix and solve and all of those sorts of things. And often it's actually a matter of just observing, noticing, and what we say all the time, acknowledging.
Yeah.
I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling angry, and then allowing time and space, because sometimes actually there's nothing more to do. And that's certainly in context of yourself. In context of others, so if we think about this from a leadership point of view, it's not always helpful for us to take someone else's discomfort away from them either. It can be useful. Emotion can be really useful for driving people to make decisions and to act. So sometimes it's about just being with someone in their frustration, fear, and not necessarily rushing in to take it away.
Yeah, I think, and this comes back to something we were talking about last week, often when we're doing that sort of solving and fixing, it's to alleviate our own discomfort. So someone else is upset, it's visible, we've got a lot of empathy, we can see that. But when we start to even up for ourselves or for someone else, take it away from them, then they don't get to explore all that might be available to them through that discomfort, through the emotion that may feel a little bit unpleasant at the time. And, there's a lovely piece about, if you give yourself that time, the neuroscience says when you acknowledge the emotion, when you are in tune with it and you can say what it is, it actually starts to make it dissipate anyway. So that's slowing down, getting clear, and then just acknowledging it. So I'm noticing that I'm feeling more frustrated than I would like to, or just noticing I'm feeling frustration. You don't even have to qualify it. Just acknowledging it in yourself, either out loud or just internally, it starts to quieten a little bit. And sometimes being alongside someone else, it's just, okay, I'm hearing that you're really frustrated today.
Yeah.
Stop. You don't need to say any more from there. That person hopefully will just know and feel how heard they are around this, and that you're not trying to make it different.
I think, and even as you say, that's such a lesson in terms of simplicity and brevity. When I think about communication and particularly tough conversations as leaders, and I was talking, whenever I'm coaching clients around salary negotiations, things like that, we literally keep it really brief. We don't need to fill it up with words. It's short, it's sharp. And on some level, particularly, and these are big salary negotiation conversations we're having, it's actually sometimes about leaving the discomfort with their boss or whoever they're negotiating with, because it's that energy and that potency and the power of that actually, often will force or motivate someone to do something or do something different. So I think it's interesting, but it's also really uncomfortable. And if we think about and we weren't going to go here, but it came up as we were talking. We think about salary negotiations. Why don't we have those conversations? You know, our Women at Work research has shown us, you know, 52% of women feel like they're paid underpaid by 10% or more. Of those women, less than half have had conversations with bosses. Why don't we have those conversations? Because it feels uncomfortable.
Yep, it feels uncomfortable internally, and we dislike sitting with the discomfort of the other person. So that whole piece of getting okay with our own discomfort, but also, which is actually quite often harder, getting okay with the discomfort of someone else, particularly someone you like and you work with, because you want to be in good working relationship, you want to have good rapport, and there are times when you need to be able to hold something without just because that dissipates all the energy and power in, you know, if you've been really clear and articulated your value and you've made a good case for things and you've put, you know, the amount that you want on the table, and then you start that just all of that energy is just gone. So, you know, it's and you do wonderful work around this, making sure people are prepped and coached so they actually can hold that discomfort. And it may be a good 1 or 2 minutes, and that's a very long time in a room if there's just the two of you to not seek to fill that space.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this whole piece of, you know, a choice, I notice and acknowledge, and the potency of acknowledging an emotion. But then I have a choice. I don't, it's not and this is, I guess, awareness around unconscious, you know, moving straight into action, but that I've got a choice about what to do with this stuff, that I'm not, you know, that word because, I think to start to have more consciousness around when you use the word because and when you actually could just stop. Because this whole emotional projection, we talked a little bit about it last week when we were talking about vulnerability, but this emotional projection, often one of the key things I say to clients is, no, let's just, no, because just stop. So, you know, it's how do we start to notice that and really manage the emotion and the choices that I'm making. And I think the acknowledgement, working with a client on Monday who was quite fired up about something, and wanted to go in and have a conversation with her leader, and, you know, always, what do we say? Sleep on it. Give yourself 12 hours to allow the emotion to dissipate, to kind of right size the emotion, and then the thinking that goes on with that. And then think the second piece is, and then hold emotion with light touch.
Yes, yeah.
It's not always a sledgehammer. It's when we say light touch, we mean, you know, exactly what you just did. You know, I noticed you're frustrated, and then that's, so I've acknowledged, I've interacted, I've given it a light touch, but I haven't, you know, grabbed you and, you know, gone there with you.
Yes, and it's so tempting to do that. It's so tempting to fill space. It's so tempting to dive, particularly if you are someone who's quite empathetic and you can easily feel someone else's emotion. We can get drawn into that. And that's often not helpful. It's much better if we can be, you know, a support and also remain strong and certain, to a certain degree, boundaried, so that we're not falling into this gulf as well, because that can actually exacerbate it for the person, and that's not helpful. So let's just be conscious of our own emotions, conscious of others, making good choices about how we express ourselves, but also how we're expressing ourselves to others. And that way we're really using emotional intelligence in a smart way and in a productive way.
Yeah, and look, as we close, to do that for yourself as well. So, you know, it's easy to get an understanding of that in relation to someone else, but then when you actually start to look at your relationship with yourself, to actually apply that same principle in terms of emotions we're feeling, to be able to, what we, you know, in the book we talk about, be your own best coach. So actually start to, you know, apply that in context of your own relationships. So, great fun.
Yes,
we've
lovely to be twice in a row in the same room, which
is
is really cool. And just through, you know, one of the reasons we talk about emotional intelligence is because it's so fundamental to core confidence. The more that you get connected and able to use your emotional intelligence, the more you'll be closely connected to your core confidence. And we know that that is an incredible resource for everyone.
Absolutely. Well, let's leave it there. Great to see you guys, and have a wonderful Easter break, and we'll see you next week.
See you then.